So, I'm Tracy Capune with Kaufman Astoria Studios. Joining me are my partners, Tracy Applebaum with Bedrock Real Estate Partners and Jameson Duvall with Silverstein Properties, along with Bishop Mitchell Taylor with Urban Upbound, one of our community partners, along with the Museum of the Moving Image. Kaufman has been in this neighborhood for over 100 years, and we have long supported civic and cultural organizations here in Queens. We've always viewed this plan as something that needs to be for the existing neighborhood, and we think it's fortunate to have partners in this project that share our commitment to building on the good in the existing community as a starting point. Next slide. If you've walked down 35th Avenue recently, you know that some of these blocks are a little quiet, a little underwhelming, but they are surrounded by the Kaufman Arts District and the Steinway Street retail corridor with ample access to public transportation and served by bike lanes and bike share stations. We see our plan as an opportunity to build on the good things happening around the studio, around this museum, around the Frank Sinatra School of the Arts. Let's bring the positive energy down 35th Avenue all the way to Northern Boulevard and move it north along Steinway. It's also worth noting that many of the sites are occupied by surface parking, and moving these sites away from underperforming uses and toward a vibrant mixed-use residential commercial district is critical to breathing life into this pocket of the neighborhood. Next slide, please. Controlling 5 city blocks is a tremendous opportunity and a unique one to build extraordinary community amenities into our plan. Amenities that can help address some of the challenges this neighborhood faces. Like open space, our neighborhood ranks near the last for open space, 53 out of the 59 New York City neighborhoods. This is a great chance to create permanent public open space that will be maintained by us, the development team. You'll notice there are lots of vacant storefronts. In speaking with the BID membership and local small business owners, they're very excited to know there will be new residents and new office workers, creating more foot traffic and spending an additional $50 million in our community to support local businesses. Plus, we're happy to join the BID and help support their ongoing efforts to improve the neighborhood. We also know there's a citywide housing crisis for any kind of housing, market rate, affordable, and senior. What I didn't know until speaking with Hannick is that the average wait to get senior housing in this neighborhood is over 5 years. And there's not much vacant housing stock in our area at all. This plan can add needed housing of different types and different sizes, including over 700 permanently affordable and senior homes as a start to address this need. Next slide, please. Innovation Queens extends and bridges our sites to the larger, vibrant community. In addition to creating new homes, it's creating office space for creative businesses and startups. It's creating a home for the new state-of-the-art home for the cinema that everybody loves. And it's creating a 60,000 square foot community hub located adjacent to the largest public open space. Next slide, please. It's about jobs, creating 3,700 construction jobs and 1,700 permanent jobs, including union building service jobs. It's pumping $50 million in new local annual spending to support existing Astoria businesses. It's giving our community organizations and partners the ability to expand their programming and to provide more services in this neighborhood. And with that, let me turn it over to Tracy to walk you through the plan.
Thank you, Tracy. And thanks to everyone for taking the time this afternoon to come out and learn more about Innovation Queens. As Tracy said, I'm Tracy Applebaum with Bedrock Partners, so we thought we would make it easier on you tonight. This partnership really came together over a shared vision of the very unique opportunity to bring together these 5 city blocks that simply would not be possible with one-off developments. In other words, when one rezones a single property, you generally would take your open spaces and turn them inward facing, and it's limited opportunity to provide community benefits. This plan really allows us to do something very cohesive and special, along with the myriad of public benefits. This concept really began around the importance of the public realm. We planned this in a way that would add an active 24/7 district to the already vibrant fabric of Astoria and the Kaufman Art District. As Tracy said, while Astoria is arguably #1 in so many ways, this community ranked 53 out of 59 throughout the entire city for open space. The pedestrian experience was very important to us, and so we really focused on the public realm. We heard from so many of our neighbors, both years before as well as after the onset of COVID, how much the critical need for open space had affected this community. And so towards that end, as you can see, we have created a network of 8 unique open spaces across these 5 blocks in a way that, as you can see, they communicate with one another and try to make it a seamless pedestrian experience. This amount of open space is almost 2.2 acres and over 25% of our private land area, which is, again, a very unusual high figure. At the heart of and the epicenter of the project, at the intersection of Steinway and 35th, where it says number 5 above, you can see a very large civic park, which will be designed to draw people in and sit adjacent to playground number 35. Branching out from this, as I mentioned before, is a network of connected public open spaces that will be programmed to appeal to a wide variety of interests. The intent is to draw you from one space to another. And the idea, again, is across these city blocks, there'll be something for everyone, whether it's dining, playing, relaxing, or experiencing all of the vibrancy of Astoria. And while these spaces certainly reflect a lot of what we have heard from our neighbors over the past 4 years, we are committed, and I believe there are posters outlining more details of them out in the foyer. We really welcome further input on these, and there'll be opportunities to do that. Oh, they can put it here. Okay, excellent. We then continued to build around this open space and complemented that with a variety of the other uses which will serve to animate these spaces throughout the day. There will be restaurants, community spaces, apartments, and offices. And now for the elephant in the room, what you are about to see are the representative building locations to show how we have been thinking about this district overall. These are not yet the beautifully designed buildings that we'll ultimately see from our architect, but this is just our attempt to show how our thought process has gone. So next slide. Great. So here you see the overall building proposal. In order to orient you to the diagram above, the Regal Cinema to the far west is sort of the just so you can see. The Regal Cinema sits there, and then we've called that Block A, and then we progress towards Northern Boulevard to the east, so Block A, B, C, D, and E. In response to our ongoing dialogue in the community, we really spent some time trying to think of the context of the neighborhood where we're moving into. And so you can see that we have made a real effort to keep the taller buildings along Northern Boulevard or towards Northern Boulevard to the east and to the south, away from the residential corridor on 35th Avenue. So the height really starts out low at the existing Regal Theater and moves up as you move towards Northern Boulevard. We really envision Innovation Queens as an amplification of what is already so great about Astoria, and that's a 15-minute neighborhood. We expect to have a mix of live, work, learn, eat, relax in the park, and enjoy all that is so great about Astoria without the need to get into a car or hop on a subway or a bus. We've used the colors so that you can see the different mix of uses and how they support the buildings that we're proposing. So, in yellow, you can see almost 2,800 new homes in a city that is starved of new housing at virtually every price point. where none exist today, virtually none exist today. These will include 700 permanently affordable homes, including senior residences, as Tracy said, a message we heard loud and clear. The red represents retail. These are shops, restaurants, food hall, and in particular, a state-of-the-art movie theater, new movie theater. So we will be relocating Regal from Block A to Block D. So the reason you see so much red on Block D is that's going to be where the new Regal Theater will sit. And we see that as really the epicenter and the heartbeat of this neighborhood, of this new district. In pink and bookending the eastern and westernmost ends, you'll see office space, which we believe will house the creative industries that are a part of the real backbone of Western Queens. And then interspersed throughout the project, as you can see on A and C, is over 100,000 square feet of dedicated community facility space to serve nonprofits and other cultural organizations. I'd like to highlight one of those spaces in particular on Block C. There we have planned a 60,000 square foot community center hub that fronts the project's largest open space. This hub will really serve as a permanent home for many community-based organizations and that focus on the underserved communities here in Astoria and beyond, as well as many cultural organizations that Kaufman has been involved with for decades and many that we are meeting new for the first time. This will also serve as a resource generally for local nonprofits who might need classrooms, event space, and other support from time to time. And as we start talking about that, this is a perfect segue to turn it over to Bishop Taylor, who has been one of our community partners for several years now and who will address many of the local challenges and the opportunities that we believe we have for helping to solve them.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. I'm Bishop Mitchell Taylor, the CEO and co-founder of Urban Upbound, a local nonprofit that was designed to break cycles of poverty in public housing neighborhoods. Beyond the bricks, this project for us is more than brick and mortar. It's really about the heart and soul of a neighborhood and creating opportunities and access and housing that does not exist for so many people. This project, Innovation Queens, indicative of its name, has tapped into Northwestern Queens' rich array of nonprofits that exist here and have aggregated the best and the brightest to expand their nonprofit footprint to provide the vital services that are needed not only in parts of Northwestern Queens, but in all parts of Northwestern Queens, whether that be employment services, business innovation, one-on-one financial counseling, youth development for our young people, vocational and academic, and having an intergenerational hub right in the center of Long Island City, Astoria, is going to be game-changing for the populations that will be impacted. So we're very excited about what's going to happen, and I'm very excited to be able to explain and talk more about the rich array of nonprofits that are here in Northwestern Queens. Thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over now. Back over to
Oh, sorry, to me, I'm sorry.
To Tracy.
My fault. I'm sorry.
Next slide, please.
Next slide, thank you. So, before I turn this over to Celeste for Q&A, we've heard from many members in this community over the past 4 years as we've been working on this, and we look forward to hearing from you today and from more of you into the future. But I do want to point out that in addition to today and the 2 workshops we have planned for next month and the month after, you will have several public hearings during the formal ULERT process to make your views known and weigh in on this approval process, and we welcome your input. And with that, Celeste.
All right, so the first question we received is, will 38th Street between 34th and 35th Avenues be included in the zoning change?
I can take that one. No, between 34th and 35th Avenue, 38th Street will not be part of the rezoning. The rezoning is bounded by 36th Avenue to the south, 35th Avenue to the north, 43rd Street to the east, and 37th Street to the west. So that encompasses the rezoning area, the proposed area.
Okay, thank you. And then, let's see. Okay, I think at this, we have one person who'd like to ask a question? Great.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Vesely. I'm a business agent with the Carpenters Union. I represent North Queens. I was also a local 45 member right here in Queens for a long time when I was on my tools. I have support from many men and women, brothers and sisters that are here to support the project. I guess to keep it simple, my question is, are we aware of our apprenticeship program, the Carpenters diversity, and the advantage that we could bring to this area? Being union carpenters that provide a livable wage, dignified retirement, health insurance to men and women that actually live in this neighborhood. We can have and supply plenty of people that could literally walk to work. So we have, with the Carpenters Union, we have different models to work with the outer boroughs now. We know it's not the same square footage as Manhattan, so we've adjusted our rates to be competitive with the non-union sector. So with all these points, like I said, our apprenticeship program is state-of-the-art. We check a lot of boxes. We're a very diverse organization, all races, religions, men and women working side by side as brothers and sisters. And again, local hire is key. That's why we're here. So we're here to support the project in this scale, of really any scale that gets final approval. And we're here to work with the developers, nonprofit, and people that are here to make profit, right? Everyone has to make a living, so we understand that. What we try to stress at the Carpenters Union is we build it better, safer, and faster than the non-union sector. Not always necessarily cheaper, but we know why. Because we provide health insurance and a dignified retirement.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll just say we do look forward to continuing those conversations, absolutely, and we are aware of all the great work that you do. So thank you, and thank you for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. So I know we have, thank you. I know we have a few folks who are starting to line up, but I just want to put out one final call. Anyone at this point who needs interpretation in order to ask a question? No? Is that it? Okay. All right. Thank you. Of course, if anyone who needs interpretation would like to ask a question, you may join the question line at any time. We just wanted to give a moment for folks to go first. And so at this point, we'll open it up to questions. We have a few people in line on this side, so if you'd like to join the line at this time, maybe try on the other side over there so that we can kind of balance it out a little bit. Great. Actually, if I could ask the lighting, maybe just stay on the presenters so that I can see the line. Thank you.
Actually, if you wouldn't mind dimming it this much, because we feel like we're getting blinded up here, so we'll have a happy medium.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So.
I'm sorry to interrupt. If there is someone who needs interpretation, you should say it in a different language because obviously they wouldn't understand what you're saying.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to repeat that into the microphone so that the interpreters are able to interpret it. And you're right, I don't actually speak those languages, so I'm not able to say it. But we do have it in writing at the registration table. And so anyone who came in was offered the opportunity and really encouraged to get interpretation services. So thank you for that concern. All right, so do we have a question on this side?
My name is Jenny Dubnow. I've been living in Queens for about 20 years now, native New Yorker. And I've seen what's happened to neighborhood after neighborhood with these shiny luxury developments. And the problem is, all support to the Carpenters Union folks. None of them are going to be able to afford these apartments. $4,000 market rate. $4,000 for a one bedroom, $3,000 for a studio, it's the same old story. You're adding a tiny bit of green space, it's gonna be for the newer, wealthier people coming in. All these little side streets, all these little mom and pop businesses, their rents are gonna go up. We see it happening in Williamsburg, in Long Island City, and many of us do not want that to happen here in Astoria. So all for building deeply affordable housing. This is not deeply affordable housing. And the secondary displacement for folks who live in this community, immigrants, people of color, working class folks, regular New Yorkers, our rents are gonna rise, and then don't forget the mom and pops. They're already struggling with rents they cannot afford. Rents always go up with these kinds of massive rezonings. Supply and demand does not work in New York City the way some people say it does, and I'm very concerned for the future of this community with this kind of luxury development, because make no mistake, this is a luxury development. There is a paltry amount of affordability in this development, and the things that you call affordable are not affordable to the AMI of folks who live here. So I'm firmly against this.
I'll just reiterate that we are adding housing at virtually every price point where no housing exists today. The laws of supply and demand do matter in New York City.
They're not laws.
We have been, the concept of supply and demand still works in New York City, and we are chronically, for decades, undersupplied with housing. This particular project will provide over 700 affordable units. There will be I lost my exact numbers. Can you add them up? Oh. We have over 500 apartments that are less than $1,500, of which 300 will be, and that's for a family of 3, and over 300 apartments that'll be less than $1,000. So we are trying, and we are, open to other ideas.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that affordability isn't final. We are eager and open to continuing conversations with everyone throughout the process about how to enhance affordability.
Great, thank you. So I'll take a person on this side at this time if they'd like to ask a question.
Hi, can you hear me? No. All right. Alright, doesn't sound like it on my end, my bad. I'm also a lifelong New Yorker. I came here when I was 6 years old. I'm proud of immigrants. I am an immigrant. I've lived in this neighborhood for 26 years. I actually lived 2 blocks down from here for a long time. And I'm also deeply concerned about the affordability of this housing project. As Jenny said before, 75% market rate apartments are just not feasible for families and working class people of this neighborhood. I can't afford an apartment on my own. Sorry.
The mic's on and off.
I think this mic is not working.
Stop. Cool.
No, now it's off. I think it's off altogether now.
Go to the other side.
Can I go to the other side? Yeah.
Go on the other side.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Amazing. I'll just repeat my initial statement quickly. I've been living in New York for the last 26 years. I'm an immigrant and child of immigrants, of working class people who lived in Astoria, who still live in Astoria, and I am deeply concerned about the affordability of the housing. I understand housing needs to be built. I just don't agree with the affordable housing points of this project. I believe there needs to be more deeply affordable housing. I don't know that you have really communicated with the people in this neighborhood. I went to Arrow Community Center. Do you know Arrow Community Center? It's right here. They didn't know about this project. I asked Joanne, who I've known all my life, and she had no idea this was going on today. So I just don't really see how you've actually been working with the community of this neighborhood, and community partners here, considering that Arrow Community Center has been here forever and they had no idea this was happening. Again, worried that this project will displace the people who lived here. Not only will it displace manufacturing buildings that are being used, that do have jobs, people do work in these places, right? You're displacing them, you're displacing families, you're displacing restaurants. People who own the restaurants didn't know that their restaurant was, due to be demolished for this project. So I don't believe that you have actually done your due diligence to reach out to the neighborhood and explain to them, nor are you actually building something that people here want and need. I think you're building something that you want and need. I think new housing is definitely needed in New York, but I don't think that the concerns and the needs of this neighborhood are being met with this project. That's all.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. That was a multi-part question. I'm going to try to get to all of it, but if I forget something, forgive me. First, going back to the affordability, I think what both Tracy and Jameson tried to get across, we're open to all ideas. We're actively talking with the city administration, and we look forward to talking with our local council member on how we can address the concerns. With respect to the outreach, I'm sorry that the Arrow Community Center didn't know about today, and we will do better in the future. But I can say that we've tried to put this town hall together. We're planning 2 future workshops. We've done street canvassing at subway stations throughout the community board district. We went door-to-door canvassing in the neighborhood proximate to the sites. We did canvassing at Ravenswood, Queensbridge, Woodside. We did small business canvassing up Steinway, up Broadway, 34th and 35th Avenues. We did tabling and fanning out at local community events as COVID protocols would allow us to attend. We've presented a variety of Zoom presentations to over 80 community-based organizations. We've held focus groups. We've done an online survey that got about 1,200 responses. We're trying to spread the word in multiple languages across multiple channels. And we have our interactive website, innovationqns.com. We are happy to continue to do this outreach. And if you have concrete ways that we've missed that we could adopt, please pass a note and we will consider how to get better at reaching more people.
Great, thank you. Do we have, why don't we take a second person from this side?
Hi, I have a few questions. My name is Carolina. I'm a 16-year community member of Astoria. I'm also a union member and a working class resident. I have to just say first, I really lament the fact that this situation is effectively pitting working class people against working class people. Because as a union member, I will tell you, if this goes up, the ripple effect of it will make it so that I can no longer afford to live in this community. And I have a lot of friends who are also union members who would say the exact same thing. So I love the union. I literally love all of you. I just got to say that because that's what people who love people do. They tell the truth. I have a few questions. One, you said that you would be doing a racial impact study, yet you have also, which has not happened, yet you also said that you're looking to get certified by city planning by April 25th. That would be 5 days left to get that study done, completed, and to actually take that into account with your plans. I'm curious about the timing of that. 2, all of your renderings of the actual facilities show the 8 and 10 story sides of the buildings that you are planning to put up. I'm curious if you're ever going to put out accurate renderings of the multiple 20+ towers so that folks can actually see what they're looking at. If this were to go up as intended currently. 3, I'm curious if it's ever occurred to you to go door to door to the businesses that are in this 5-block radius and the streets neighboring them, because I as well have spoken to many business owners on these 5 blocks that will literally be demolished if this goes up, that had no clue I was the bearer of bad news to them. That just seems like such a simple, humane, ethical thing to do, and it has not been done. That's one suggestion right there. 4, I would like to know if the metrics, when you talk about community involvement, that you have actually engaged the community, are you counting every single time that you called someone and asked completely benign questions that no person in their right mind would say no to, like the ones that are on your website that say, do you want more green space? Find me a person who says no to that. Do you want more mom and pop shops? Find me a person who says no to that. In your first, I'm being very serious here. Like, who would say no to those things? Exactly. And if you're counting that as an interaction with the community, that is so wildly misrepresentative of actual engagement. We feel like you're trying to steamroll us. It's very unethical in its lip service. Because, I mean, even the first proposition that you put out, you said, oh, we talked to people and they said that they want a hardware store. If you've walked down the street, you've seen the Metropolitan Lumber is right there. Like, I mean, I'm talking, this is a slap across the face of everyone who is a part of this community. So I would just like to know, are you going to be more clear about the metrics here, about your community engagement? Because I think city planning deserves to know that. I think that city council deserves to know that. Everybody deserves to know that when you're going out saying, oh, we talked to this many, we showed up and we gave turkeys away at this place. Okay, who's going to say no to the things that you're asking? Is there, like, I appreciate that you're doing this. I really do, because it's allowing people to actually talk to you. And I think that's very, very important, and I will give you kudos for that. But you need to have more, you need to go to these businesses. You need to go and talk to these neighbors. I live on 41st Street. I know many people who live on 41st, 42nd, 43rd Street. Not a single person has ever had anyone approach them, nor have they received anything in person from anyone on the Innovation Queens team. Which I have to remind everyone, Kaufman, yes, has been a part of this community for many, many years, but they were bought out by venture capitalists. So do not be fooled. Thank you very much. I hope you can answer those 4 questions.
And thank you. A lot to unpack there. Thank you for this suggestion. We will get the canvassing team to make another pass and try. I mean, I'm telling you, I know that small businesses on the avenues and along Steinway were approached. We will again do another pass. Let's see, going back to this town hall, I just want to be very clear. We're happy to do this town hall. We are happy to communicate with folks, but we also feel like this was the first time we could congregate safely in these numbers during COVID. So we're doing the best we can with the limitations of this global pandemic. And again, we will try to do better if it's not enough. And what else was in there? I'm sorry.
A question about the racial impact study.
Thank you. So the racial impact study, we are committed to doing this. We will start it as soon as the city gets the methodology. Lynn, when is that expected? Do we know? So AKRF is our environmental guru and knows better than me when the city will release the methodology, and they're expecting it this week. And vis-a-vis the moving forward with certification, again, this ULURP and certification, it's the beginning of a very lengthy process where you will have time to create many, many comments, and there will be input on this plan moving forward. Certification does not mean approval. And what certification does mean for our not-for-profit partners and for folks like the cinema who need lead time to plan and draw and get ready, it allows them to plan for the future because ULURP is a little bit more prescribed than what we've been doing working with the city over the past several years.
Thank you. Do we have a question from this side?
The mic is working.
No, it's not. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. All right, let's take one more question, and then I'll take a written question because we have some of those as well.
So Les, why don't you go, let him go to the other side since he was waiting.
Yeah, please do.
People know that's great. That's great.
Thank you, Bishop.
How you doing? Hello? Yes. I had a question.
I'm a minority business owner here in the neighborhood, in Astoria. I heard you talk about the racial impact study and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys came down to Astoria houses when you talk about that. We have a trauma thing going on down there, and this new development is nice. I'm here for growth. I like all of the new things that you guys are trying to do to the neighborhood. I've been here 50 years, so I like to see it. It's a good thing, right? But we need a new hospital. And you guys are not talking about no medical to make these people, because all of this development is going on. They put a big building on Vernon Boulevard across the street from the Phoenix house. I've been talking about it since then. We need a new hospital in the neighborhood. Where all these people are going to go for medical attention?
So thank you for raising that point. We have been actively trying to approach, thank you. We've been actively trying to approach local hospital chains to talk about installing health and wellness facilities as part of the project. And unfortunately, they have not necessarily been prepared to commit to something given where the state of their budgets are after COVID. But we have recently started talking with the Floating Hospital, which is a wonderful institution with a lovely facility in Long Island City across from the Queensbridge houses. And we're hopeful that we can work with them to create something here in Innovation Queens. And that is very nascent, and we're very early in the conversations, but we're incredibly hopeful.
I hear you. It sounds great, but the Floating Hospital, they do not handle trauma, which occurs in my neighborhood on a regular. We need a hospital. We need help down there. The closest hospital that handles this is Elmhurst, and I've seen a lot of people lose their lives because they can't make it there in time. We need a hospital in the neighborhood. I understand you guys are for the development and stuff for the neighborhoods. Let's get to the table with these people who we need to speak to, the council, whoever we need to speak to. We need a hospital over here. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's, thank you. If we could just get the next person up to the microphone. Great, thank you, go ahead.
Hey everybody, how are you? So we're with District Council 9. We're another labor organization, just like the carpenters that are here, the painters, tapers, and glazers. We do have some support in the room. We really do think that you folks have done a lot to inform us about this development. Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, which again, it's great to see development and community here in the same room. Just also wanted to echo what the carpenters have said. We have a training facility right over here in Long Island City. Taking in local from the community to train the proper way on these trades that could not only build a development like this, but also work to maintain a development like this and live in a development like this is what we're just trying to, say to all the folks out there when there is an opportunity like this, because there are opportunities, and we just wanted to send that message forward. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. And I'm going to take one more question, and then I'm going to ask one question that was submitted in writing.
So, hello, my name is Aditi, I'm 13, and I've grown up in Astoria my whole life. My upbringing was similar to most of my friends, and that is, I lived with my family in a cramped, one-bedroom apartment, okay? Only a year and a half ago, we were finally able to find an affordable two-bedroom apartment, and I could finally have my own space. And by affordable, I mean less than $2,500 a month, okay? I noticed that in your development plans, you have a lot of residential space, which is good. I support that. But 60% of it is for studio and one-bedroom apartments. So my question is, how is that going to benefit the families that live here?
Thank you. As I think you may have been able to see from the slide before, out of the 500 units that are priced at under $1,500, 200 of those are 2 and 3 bedrooms. And we are very, very sensitive to the fact that there are many families and that there's a very big diversity of need in this community. And I cannot continue to emphasize enough that supply is what solves affordable housing. It's what solves every level of housing. And we very much appreciate your question, and we look forward to continuing this dialogue.
Great. So I have a couple of questions that have come in sorry, that might have been me. I have some questions that have come in about environmental efforts. So one is, how do you plan to incorporate environmentally sustainable practices into your open spaces, such as composting and community gardens, and also into the building practices, and what will be the carbon footprint?
I'll take that one slide. So we're very committed to sustainability, not just sustainable buildings, but trying to create a sustainable community. That does start with the 2+ acres of publicly available open space, which will help with stormwater retention, water reuse. We're looking at high efficiency buildings, and we're also exploring geothermal actually to try to see if we could rely less on off-site energy sources. So there's it's very early in the process, but we are very committed to providing sustainability.
I think that's a great area to get ongoing community input into over the next several years. And there's several questions that I'll bring up next about the actual environmental review and impact studies that we'll get to next. Right.
Hello, my name is Eric. I'm working on this project, and I first want to thank you for hiring me, a small Queens kid who dropped out of high school, son of immigrants who never left Queens. And I have a small firm. You could have gone to a big Manhattan firm, but you decided to stay local, so thank you. I employ 100 people, so thank you for that. It's been a real pleasure working on this project, a project that I really support. Secondly, I love the fact that there's 700 affordable units on basically empty land. That is nothing there besides lots or one-story building that's going to house about 1,400 people. That's second. Third, regarding the supply and demand, a lot of people last year during COVID were raving about all the COVID deals. The reason there were COVID deals were because half the city moved out. And because half the city moved out, there was so much vacancy and the prices went down. And that's just a good example of supply and demand. There were more units than there were people, so prices went down. People came back now, so that's why prices are leveling out. When you're offering a lot more units, guess what? Prices are going to come down. And that's just a little nice example of supply and demand. Thank you, and I support the project.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, our next question.
What I want to say, how many apartments are there, and how many parking garages are provided for each apartment?
So I'll just thank you.
We cannot park. We go hours and hours, and we are entitled to have vehicles here, especially for our handicapped people. Okay? We don't want to ride the subways because it's dangerous. You get pushed on the tracks. We have a lot of crime. And who's going to provide the extra police, extra sanitation? It's going to bring our taxes up. And you know what? The people that pay rent are going to end up paying for this, okay? Because when the rent goes up on property, it goes up for the tenant. So you're making it unaffordable, Astoria.
Thank you. Did you get that question? Is it helpful?
Also, you have to provide a hospital that can accommodate everyone. We're in a pandemic, okay? You have to plan a community. You don't just build something like this without planning for the public. The people deserve to be taken care of.
So I think your first question was the number of units. Currently proposed, there's over 2,800 units, over 700 of which would be the permanently affordable ones.
How many garages?
In terms of...
Sir, I'm sorry, just give me 1 second. The interpreters were not able to understand her question, so I just want to restate it into the microphone. So the initial question was, how many parking spaces?
No spaces, only spaces and garages. We
And yes, so how many parking spaces and parking garages will be created or made available through this, was the first question.
Oh, no, I want to know how many units there are.
And how many housing units, and if there will be, handicapped parking available as well.
So there's over 2,800 apartment units, 700 of which will be the permanently affordable ones. There's 5 parking garages. The subgrade of each block will be a parking garage, which will contain around 1,400 parking spaces. And yes, there will be handicap accessible parking spaces in each garage.
Because we cannot find parking in this area, and nobody wants to take the subway, because we have high crime right now, okay? So who's gonna pay for the extra police?
Yes, so that was
the extra sanitation and everything else.
Thank you.
Who's gonna
So-
pay for it?
So
They just a quick continuation of the comment or question for interpretation was, there will be a need for additional public safety and police and sanitation resources. How will that be paid for? And also, will it contribute to crime? And also and reiterating the need for a hospital.
So the proposed project will create $120 million in tax revenue during construction and $18 million of recurring tax revenue during its operations. That will go towards paying for the infrastructure upgrades that you were asking about.
But how long is that gonna go on?
Continuously.
It's gonna be continuous?
Yes,
So
and in
then
terms
what
of
you're saying is
okay.
Okay, thank you so much for that comment and question. We can have our next person come up.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carl Lawson. I'm from the Queensbridge Houses, and I'm a retired 731 construction worker. I have 2 questions. My first question is there going to be anything for the minority contractor? I also have a cleaning business that I'm involved in now. But more important than that, we can't forget the elephant in the room. Jobs and good paying jobs stop crime and save lives. About 30 years ago, Manco Elevator came to Queensbridge and installed new elevators. With that, they hired 4 apprentices from Queensbridge. All 4 of them became mechanics and are on their way to retirement. So my question is, for a lot of these, for the 4 developments around here, I'm talking about Queensbridge, Ravenwood, Astoria, and Woodside houses, will there be any type of apprenticeship program, any type of set-asides, is any way we can try to help some of these youth get jobs, get into the Carpenters Union, get into the Elevators Union, get into 731, 79, and all of that. All these union jobs, and these jobs, I heard in the news today, construction, especially unit construction, is like the 4th highest paying job in the city. So is there any kind of thing that we're talking about doing, about trying to involve some of these young kids and getting them on the right path and getting them into some good high paying jobs? That's my question.
Thank you so much for your question, Carl. The first question you asked, will there be any opportunities for minority contracting? And the answer simply is absolutely yes. And we want to take your name and any other minority contractors that are here, the gentleman here that talked about the hospital, maybe you'll build it. And but we want to get all of the interested parties that want to work on a project, want to do. Yes, that's what innovation is about. No longer having closed room deals and conversations for the select few, but opening this up to all of the residents and populations that surround this particular project. And as the tide rises, all smaller ships will rise together. And I love that analogy you gave about the union, because you're right. Long Island City is surrounded by unions, and one of the things that Urban Upbound is going to be working very feverishly on is making sure that we create alliances with every one of the unions that are in Long Island City that are going to be connected to this project in one way or the other, and ensuring that apprentice opportunities are made possible for young people as you suggested. And I appreciate you raising that on today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, My name is Peter Keynes, and I work in the area. I keep hearing about the rents going up and not being affordable, and I don't live in the area, I work in the area, and it's not affordable now. And so, the reason why I like it, because it gives me, I'm on board with this project, is because it gives a person like me a chance to maybe live in this area, which I've come to grow to love. And I just keep hearing about it not being affordable, and right now it isn't. And I think this project gives a person like myself a chance to maybe be a part of this neighborhood, not just working here, but living here as well, because I do really like it here. So that's all I wanted to say. Not a question, but more of a statement. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take one more question, and then I have a written question to ask.
Can you hear me okay with the mask on?
Yes.
Okay. No.
If
Okay.
need be, I will restate your question.
So, the first question I have is, when do you have a projected start date and end date for this construction in this building?
Does any of you repeat it, or?
I don't think so. So he was asking about the construction start and end date and timeline.
So the construction will start about 1.5 years after approval, and in the first couple of years we will deliver the first stage of the project, which would include the largest public open space, the new movie theater, and the 60,000 square foot community hub. And then the other stages would be built continuously thereafter. Overall, it will probably take about 10 years to deliver the entire project.
Okay. Can you do me a favor and go back to the map real quick? Okay, so
The map, or?
that one's fine. So right there on 37th Street, right across the street on the 35th Avenue side, do you know what is across the street on the bottom? Okay, so the top 35th Avenue and 37th Street, right across the street from there. Right next to location 1.
Yes.
Do you know what building is over there right now?
Yeah.
Do you know? What is it?
So we're in the Museum of the Moving Image.
Right.
And that is 37th Street, and then there's, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And then our sites start at the movie theater, and directly across that street is the charter school.
The charter school, okay.
Yep.
Now, how long, what precautions are you taking for the students that are going to be in that charter school, that are going to be across the street from a construction site, for however long it takes for that part of the development to go up?
So we will be implementing a hotline, an email address. We'll be meeting with the community board regularly before, during, and after construction to make sure that the community is aware of logistics and planning and everything that's going on. And we'll have a direct line to the project team for concerns and issues.
Okay. And one other question about the public transportation, because I used to work over where the Long Island City buildings are, up by Gantry Park. And it was all flat space, all industrial space. There was no housing there. In this case, you're disrupting housing. You're disrupting like the way people are living. You're adding however many people are going to be living in these units. And I can tell you over there was one train station. And over here, yes, there are 3 train stations, but right now, it's barely enough to keep up with the amount of people who live in this neighborhood. So now you're going to be infusing all of these other people into the community. What are you doing with the MTA to make sure that that's being accommodated?
So your question about infrastructure is a great question, thank you. There is a rigorous infrastructure and environmental analysis that has been underway and will continue through the formal public review process. So concerns exactly like yours about transportation are in the process of being studied, will be studied, those results will be made public, and the proposed ways to deal with those will also be part of the public review process. So when that gets released by the agencies, it'll be open for us all to discuss and determine what ways it can be mitigated.
So, and that actually brings me to a written question, which is, can we have access to the environmental impact study?
Yes, once it's made public by the city agencies who control that process, it will be public for everyone to view, and it will be presented and discussed in multiple community forums, the community board, borough president. So the forward-looking public review process will be an opportunity for everyone to review that, comment on it, weigh in, and address their concerns.
And just to add to that, the first time it's public, and Lynn, correct me if I'm wrong, the draft environmental impact statement is published first, and then that gets refined and negotiated during the ULERT process. And at the time of approval, we would need to have the final in place. So again, you had several months to look at the environmental studies here.
And that was all part of the timeline slide. One more question in writing, and then we'll go back. So, because it's kind of related. So, what happens to the current public park, which I think is Playground 35, during construction?
During construction, the playground, we are not modifying the playground. The playground is not part of the project. It was nicely renovated by the Department of Parks, and it will stay. So it will not be affected in terms of it getting taken over or anything by the project. It will remain as Playground 35.
All right, next question.
Okay, hi, my name's Robert, and just a quick follow-up. If you can go back to the other slide that had the high-rises and everything, the map. Okay, so you're saying that Section C, that's going to be Phase 1, so...
Section C and D would be the first phase.
Okay, and then the rest of them will be, after C and D are done, then...
We would do A and B, and the last one would be E along Northern Boulevard. That's
Okay.
what's currently being proposed.
Okay, and so that basically means like Section E would be done within 10 years of shoveling ground?
Yes, yes.
Okay. My question was more regarding infrastructure, in that last summer there was a lot of flooding in the area, a lot of basements flooded, and there's a lot of development going on here, lots of sinks, lots of toilets, lots of showers. Just wanted to know, are you partnering with the city as far as putting in bigger pipes, partnering with Con Edison, putting in better transmission lines, to power all of this?
Absolutely. That is all part of the environmental review process to assess the infrastructure in the community and make sure that it's addressed for the new proposal.
Okay, just one last question was just that the affordable housing is going to be subject basically to a lottery, I assume. Is there any accommodation to be made for people who are, let's say, are local to the area as far as getting into the lottery?
So yes, we are very much in favor of any policy that allows for that. It won't ultimately be up to us, but we are very supportive of making sure that members of this community will have priority if it is legal.
Okay, thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you. So we have, it looks like about 9 or 10 folks still in line, and we are coming up on the end. So of the first session. So I'd like to ask if folks can please, excuse me, please just try to ask your question as briefly as you can to give as many people a chance to get to the mic as possible. And if I could ask the presenters also just to try to be brief. Okay, let's go.
How you doing? Name's John Bradley, member of Local 1556. I lived in this neighborhood my whole life, 56 years. My parents lived here, and my children grew up here. They went to the public schools here. I put them through college with all using money, livable wages that I made here. I remember when the neighborhood was 75% tradesmen, warehouse workers, truck drivers, and they disappeared for certain shops and things. But what's the benefit to the community? What's our get back? Make promises. We'll build more affordable housing. We'll build this. You come to agreements with, the neighborhood communities. But it's usually the labor that gets left out. It's usually we get the substandard labor, and we have to push out the neighborhood. What's the benefit to the neighborhoods for this project? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just restate, what is the benefit to people who already live in the neighborhood and to this community?
So I actually think we have a very diverse and very impressive array of community partners that are all from this neighborhood, work within this neighborhood, and provide essential services to this neighborhood. And I think in being part of Innovation Queens and expanding their ability to provide services, that's directly benefiting this neighborhood on many different levels in many different realms.